Hi, my name is Andi. I'm a chaotic reader and I need some hard-hitting fantasy romance or romance fantasy to get me through the gloomy months. I compiled a little list of the books I have high hopes for. This is not really a TBR, more like, would I say these are my 5-star predictions? Definitely expecting them to land somewhere between 4 and 5 stars for me. Side note, you won't find Heartless Hunter and A Fate Inked in Blood on this list because those I've already read and they were more like 3-4 star categories for me. Not awful, but missed their marks to become my new all-time favorites. Unfortunately. Here's to hoping the next few books will be better. The first book I want to talk about is Peaches and Honey, These Immortal Truths. I believe I found this book when I was searching for fantasy romance series with specifically immortality as the central theme, and this one popped up on some list, but I haven't really heard anybody mention it. Some elements of it reminded me of The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue, like our main character Anna is granted immortality by a shape-shifting god, and she grapples with the world changing around her and the only constant in her life being the shape-shifting god. It sounds like historical fiction to me. We start in the 12th century, I believe, and who knows where the tale will take us. Definitely looking forward to this one for the whole immortality and god mythology, but also for the romance. The second one is also rarely talked about, even though it came out last year, titled The Memory Puller. Potentially we have a badass nun in the center of the story who is able to pull memories from people, and there are fae, and when the other nuns start disappearing, our main character is forced to team up with a flirty fae warrior to investigate. It's new adult fantasy, part of a series, but that never stopped me before from only reading the first book. And it's labeled as having a spicy, slow burn, banter-filled romance, and that sounds exactly like what I'm looking for. If there's something to know about my reading preferences, I do love a good tortured prince character. For example, Nasir in We Hunt the Flame, Elm from Two Twisted Crowns, the list goes on. In Reign and Ruin, we have an unwanted prince with the power to destroy, and that was enough for me to add it to this list. I find the cover honestly refreshing. So many of the romantasy books tend to work with darker colors, and it's unique to find an almost black and white cover where white is the background color. Another dynamic I like is when the love story is about characters who are powerful in their own rights. How to explain this? I'm not the biggest fan of fantasy romance stories when one character is super powerful and the other one is powerless or just coming into their powers. I honestly feel like that's a bit overdone at this point. However, in Reign and Ruin we have an heir to the Sultanate and the aforementioned unwanted prince, and they are more in a balanced situation, at least based on the blurb. It reads, "She is order and intellect, a woman fit to rule in a man's place. He is chaos and violence and will stop at nothing to protect his people. His magic answers hers with shadow for light. They need each other, but the cost of balance may be too high a price. Magic is dying, and the only way to save it is to enlist mages who wield the forbidden power of death. Mages cast out centuries ago in a brutal and bloody war." Sounds high stakes with mages, war, high fantasy, and a forbidden love story. It is part of a series with 4 books, but to me it seems like we follow different characters in each story and they are only loosely connected, so it should be fine. The next one you might have heard about, called Forest of Dreams and Whispers. To be honest, the elements of the story are nothing we haven't seen before. A human girl raised in the fairy world, a fae prince as the love interest, a curse, but this time it's on her as his personal guard to save him and the fairyland. Okay, that could be interesting. Apparently, it's a reverse Sleeping Beauty retelling, and the main characters connect to each other through their dreams. Plus, it has both banter and tender moments, so it really has the potential to be a highly rated book for me. Even though I usually don't read a lot of fae fantasy romance stories. Next up, we jump from fae to vampires, and not only vampires, it's vampires in dark academia. I hope I already caught your interest even before talking more about the book. It's a recent release labeled as The Cruel Prince meets Ninth House in this dangerously romantic dark academia fantasy where a lost heiress must infiltrate an arcane society and live with the vampire she suspects killed her family and kidnapped her sister. There were a few red flags in that sentence, but for the sake of fantasy romance, we will give the story the benefit of the doubt, okay? This one screams autumn to me, atmospheric with the academic setting, we have some kind of murder mystery, gothic vibes. I think I will pick this one up very, very soon. I just realized a lot of the books on this list have this X and Y type of titles, Peaches and Honey, Rain and Ruin, and now the next one, Blood and Steel. This one already landed on my list actually at the end of last year when I was looking for books with Witcher vibes but make it romantasy. And this one claims to be an epic romantic fantasy with enemies to lovers, slow burn spice, found family, and a sprawling world of magic and monsters. It's a bit on the chunkier side with 550 pages or so, but I'm hoping for immersive world building, good character depth, with our main character training to become a warrior legend, despite knowing that her life will end in 3 years, and some sizzling romance between her and her unwilling warrior chaperone. Whatever a warrior chaperone is, I guess I need to read it to find out. And last but not least, I have high hopes for a strange and stubborn endurance, because it promises a queer arranged political marriage between two kingdoms, where they learn to trust each other as their alliance is threatened, and I like to read about that, thank you. It doesn't seem like an epic fantasy story, but I'm fine with smaller scale adventures as well. I'm not even sure if there is any magic in the plot. I mean, it's tagged as fantasy romance, but the blurb doesn't give it away, so I will report back once I read it. And with that, I think I have a good list of my 4 5-star predictions. Books I have high hopes for, very well suited towards the autumn season, so expect to hear more about them from me very soon. Leave your own list of books you are excited to read in the comments below, and let's chat about them. See you in my next video. Until then, take care. Bye!